Okay, good evening, everybody. We are in Parsha VaYeishev. That would be chapter 37 in Genesis. And we're going to start with verse 1 of 37. And it starts like this. Here we go. Look in the English. Jacob settled in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. Now, the words settled and sojournings are very significant. Because, why? Because in Hebrew it says, V'yeshev Yaacov. Yaacov settled. Settled is a statement of permanence. Whereas Migurei Aviv, in the place, in the land where his father sojourned, the word ger, that's the root, Migurei Aviv, it's a language of wandering. A ger is a stranger. A ger is someone, he's constantly on the move, so to speak. Okay, so the first thing that the Kliyakar points out is the inconsistency, right, or the lack of symmetry in the word v'yeshev and migurei, between settling and moving about. So he says, Hayla Lomar, it would have made sense. It should have said, v'yeshev Yaakov, Yaakov settled be'eretz yeshivat aviv, in the same land that his father settled. Settled. Consistency. Or, v'yagar Yaakov be'eretz migurei aviv. Or it could have been consistent by saying that Yaakov sojourned. He wandered about in the land that his father wandered about. Why is it stated that he settled in the land that his father wandered about? So, as we know, there's a famous idea in Chazal that says that Yaakov sought, he desired a yeshiva shokeva, a permanent residence in this world. He wanted shalva, he wanted peace. And I want to tell you, there is no peace for the righteous. The righteous, I'm not saying they're meant to suffer, God forbid, but life is about tests. Life is about tribulations. Life is about growth. And we all know, when you're growing to adolescence, there's a lot of even physical pain, right? You're growing, your bones are growing, you're growing. There's going to be tests. It's not going to be so comfortable. So this is one of the keys here. This is actually one of the places that we learned it from. That Yaakov desired this, and as he came to want this, Hashem, let's say, brought about certain consequences that would not allow him to have that shalva, to have that tranquility. And Yosef, his loved son, his favorite son, was then sold into slavery and caused his father a tremendous amount of pain for the following 17 years. But so far, all we read was the Kliyakars pointing out the inconsistency, desire for symmetry, but it's not there. And furthermore, he says, Be'eretz Canaan, lamali. Why do I need to know that it's in Eretz Canaan? And this is where he makes the statement, Ela lefi shema'ashim et Yaakov, al shebikesh liyeshe ba'olam hazeh yeshivat shokeva. Because there was this, we'll call guilt. There was a incurred guilt by Yaakov regarding his request to have a settlement in this world. This world is not the real world, and certainly not the permanent world. We believe in the world to come. We believe in a world of souls, and this world that we call a olam hasheker. It's a world of illusions and lies. And it's only temporary, okay? So for him to desire and want that was a no-no. And what did he want to be? Liot ketoshav ba'olam hazeh. So we're on the fourth line. Liot ketoshav. He wanted to be like a resident, a permanent resident in this world. In the same place, bimkom migurei aviv, in the very same place that his father was a wanderer. Now you're going to ask, what does that mean? It's true, Yitzhak never left the land of Israel, but he was still wandering from place to place. He didn't build cities. He had a tent and he moved from place to place. But why was it so important for Abraham and Yitzchak to be a wanderer? So I'll tell you outside a little bit and then we'll see it inside. If you recall, there was a promise. I don't call it a curse. It was a promise by Hashem to Abraham at the Brit Bein Batarim, at the covenant between the parts. And what did God say to Abraham? That your children, your seed, will be strangers in a strange land for 400 years. Were we ever strangers in a strange land for 400 years? We were only in Egypt for 210. It is true that the 400 years that we're counting of being strangers is from Isaac's birth. From the very birth of Isaac till we left Egypt was exactly 400 years. So the seed, so there's a certain debt to pay. I know that's a strange statement, but we had to pay this 400 years of being wanderers. Therefore, while Avram was still alive after Isaac was born, he also was a wanderer. He remained a wanderer, and Isaac was a wanderer, and for most of Yaakov's life he was a wanderer. But at some point, if you asked to be a permanent resident, that would stop the counting of being a wanderer, and it would have ramifications and consequences later on. Do you know when we left Egypt, we were at the 49th level of impurity, and that if we would have stayed 1 second longer, we may never have been redeemed. We would have been a lost cause. So you can imagine if I guess you could call it a timer. There's a tick-tock timer going on from Yitzhak's birth, and if for 17 years, whatever, plus another 37 years or whatever, 36 years, can you just imagine the rest of Yaakov's life would have been without counting in the 400. Who knows if we ever would have left Egypt. Okay, so now we have a little bit of background on where we're going with this. Going back, Ki Aviv lo aso kain. His father, Isaac, never did such a thing. Elo haya ba'olam hazeh. You know how Isaac lived in this world? He lived kager, like a wanderer. I know the word ger has many meanings, but the main meaning means a stranger, someone like even when we talk about converts, we're talking about someone who came from an outside society or an outside family and is now becomes I'm not going to say naturalized citizen, but in the same level as a naturalized citizen, right? They become a full citizen, 100% Jewish, but they have a background. They have the fact that they were not brought up in a Jewish culture, perhaps, or they were neither were their mother was not Jewish. But okay, so it means a stranger, k'oreach noto lalun, as a reach means a visitor who's just spending the night. That's how we should be looking at this world. That's why we should be jealous of converts, because converts actually are cognizant of the fact that this is, short-lived and it's not permanent. I had a friend, he was diagnosed with cancer about 10 years ago, and they gave him 6 months to live. I'm going to tell you, he's still going strong, and he's probably going to outlive all of us. But when he was first diagnosed, I actually said to him something very courageous. What do you say to somebody who tells you they have 6 months to live? I said to him, you're very lucky. Most people on the planet Earth think they're going to live forever. They're just disillusioned, deluded themselves. But you know the truth. You know that you're not going to live forever. And you know what he did? He took all his money and he took a cruise around the world. And Baruch Hashem, his son has money and is taken care of for the last 9.5 years. But he lives life like it's to its fullest. He really knows how to live. I'm not going to say I'm jealous, but it's a good character trait to understand that you're not going to live forever and to take advantage. And he became very much a changed person. So can you imagine living life like a ger, like a guest who comes to spend the night? God says to him, look in chapter 26, verse 3. That would be the first on the source sheet. God says, Gur ba'aretz hazot. That's like a command. Sojourn in the land that I will be with you. He's telling him to gur, as in ger, as in be a wanderer in this land. So it mentions loshen gur. Hizkir loshen gur. Why? Ki rotza Hashem shelo yivakesh yeshiva shel keva b'olam hazeh. Because the most important lesson one should learn: do not seek to be a permanent resident in this world. Ki elomar. Okay, this is a little tricky. So one shouldn't say, Shelachach hizkir loshen gur. Don't think that the reason gur was mentioned, lefi shehaya ba'oto pam dar ba'aretz lo. Don't think that he was actually living in a land that wasn't really his, because it really was. V'hadar ba'aretz nichriya nikra ger. As we do know, the word ger means if someone's living in a foreign land, right, that's not theirs, you're called a ger. That's why it says Eretz Canaan. It really is Israel. Ba'ota Eretz Yitzhak Toshav. In the land of Canaan, Yitzhak also was a Toshav. Kishalo he, because it really was his through, through inheritance. It was promised to Abraham. And even Abraham, if you look in chapter 23, verse 4, when Abraham is purchasing the burial plot of the Maras HaMachpelah from the locals, he says, Ger v'toshav anochi machem. A stranger and a resident, I am with you. Now he used both languages. The truth is he's a ger, but he's also a toshav. Im tirtzu, if you want to say that I was only a ger, so that's what it means. But imlo et lenim min adin. But if you want to say that I'm also not a ger, I'm a toshav, then I have the right to take it because the land's mine. But he didn't. He paid because he was a ger. Then this is that thought process. If that's all the case, that just like his father was a toshav, so too Yitzhak was a toshav. Ki Yerusha hilo, because it's going to come to him through inheritance. So then we'll go back to that point we said earlier in Genesis 26:3, where it was a command. God says, Gur ba'aretz, you must be a ger. Because he wanted him to have the status of a ger, to be of this mindset. Even in your own land, even while you're living in Eretz Yisrael, even though you have a Tudat Zahut, even though you have an ID number, even though it's blue and not orange, don't think of this world, and especially this land, as a permanent place. It ain't. Right? Don't request to have shalva, peace, even in your own land. Now, I mean peace, I don't mean national peace. We're talking about personal growth and trials. Ki'im k'miyadayar be daira. But rather, you're like a renter who's just renting. Okay, and that means you have the freedom to go and rent. Okay. The Yaacov lo lamad mimenu la'asot kain. I would not say this about Jacob, but the Kliyakar is bringing it from the Gemara. So the Gemara, the sages mention that Yaacov did not learn this lesson. Okay, Yaacov failed to totally comprehend this lesson, but Hashem took care of it. Okay, he did not end up living a life of shalva during those years that his son was missing. It says, "V'Yaakov lo lamad mimeno la'asot kain." He didn't learn to do such a thing. And now the next few words are going to be very important because we're going to be discussing them. Al kain kof sa'olav ragzu shel Yosef. Therefore, pounced upon him, jumped upon him, sprang upon him, or quickly came upon him, the anger of Joseph. Now, why is it called anger, and why is it called of Joseph? What does it have to do with Joseph? Okay, so that's a very enigmatic. We're going to have to go deep into what these words mean. Okay, davar acher. Alternatively, shekavar ne'emar la'Avram. It was already said to Avram in chapter 15, verse 13. Ki ger yiyeh zarecha. He said to Avram, you shall surely know that your seed, your progeny, your children will be strangers in a strange land. Okay? V'gam Yaakov yesh lo chelek b'frias choiv zeh. Also, Yaakov has part of this 400 years that needs to be paid off. As I mentioned, if it's not paid off, it's going to just be extended. Okay? In other words, the clock is ticking from Isaac's birth, and if at any time there's a permanent residence, then this promise won't take place in 400 years. It'll take place in like 417 years. But it's still, the clock is ticking as a stranger for 400 years. You follow what I'm saying? Do I hear a yes? Okay. And yet he requested a permanent residence or residence of peace and tranquility in the same place or in place of where his father sojourned. Ki mishenolad Yitzchak hitchil hagerus. It's when Yitzchak was born, that's when the wandering began. And guess what? Both Abraham and Isaac, they both treated their lives like gerim. Abraham v'Yitzchak hayu machzikim es atzmam kegerim. They held themselves, they kept themselves in the status of a nomadic life, moving around. Hayu nodim, they were wandering. Umitu talim, and moving about. Mimasa lamasa, from one journey to the next. Lo ekonim nachlas sadeh v'kerem, they did not purchase fields and vineyards. Of course, they bought what we call a burial place, but you don't set up residence in a burial place while you're still alive. V'akol asu kedei l'shalem mehei rachov. They did this all in order to pay off quickly, to make sure the clock kept ticking for the chov, for the obligation of what we said earlier in Genesis 15:13, that your seed will surely be strangers. Now that all works well with what we're saying, especially when you think about Esav. Esav is outside the family, and Esav did not pay. He sold his birthright. He was not interested in being part of this 400 years of wandering. As the Kleokar points out, Bishlama Esav, when it came to Esav, Shahalach lo eretz el eretz. You know where he went? He went to his own land. Shapir Kamar, it works out well. If we look at the verse, well, we're not there yet. Eli chelek b'matana shel eretz hazot. Basically, he was saying, I don't care about the land. I don't care about the birthright. I'm not interested in spirituality, right? Eretz Yisrael is all about the spirit, the ruach, the life with God. I'm not interested, he said. V'lo b'frias chov, and I'm certainly not interested in paying off any kind of debt. As Rashi mentions at the end of Parsha VaYeishev, that's Lamed Vav Vav. Did I bring it down? I'm not sure if I quoted the Rashi. Let's see. Lamed Vav Vav. Okay, I don't think I can. I have it here. I can look it up. What did Esav do? He took his wives, his sons, and his daughters, and all the people's households, which we'll talk about later. That's not the important point here. And his cattle, and all his animals, and all his property. So he took everything he had. Everything he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went where? Somewhere else. He went to another land. The Yelech El Eretz. He went to his own land. He wasn't interested. Okay, Yaakov. What about Yaakov? Haya be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov was in the land of Canaan. V'ratz lekabel chelek. He was interested in receiving the matanat haaretz, the gift of the birthright. Lo rotzo l'shalem chov. Ki ger yeh b'zorecha, I think we're talking about Esav, that Esav was not interested in paying off the debt, that your seed will be a stranger, okay? Or actually, you know what? We're talking about Yaakov, sorry. So Yaakov himself, at this point, even though he wanted to receive, he wanted to receive the matana, the gift, but it wasn't clear to him. He wasn't so interested in paying off this debt of being a wanderer. He wanted shalva. He wanted peace and tranquility. Therefore, al kain kafsa olav ragzu shel Yosef. Therefore, pounced upon him or sprang up upon him. Again, we've discussed this point. What does it mean, the anger of Yosef? That's why it says Eretz Canaan, because the ilolo batla miyakov yeshiva shel menucha. That if it would have been. If it had not negated the settlement from Yaakov of a peaceful settlement, lo hayu yami melu oilim al mispar arbamot shana, then those years of shalva, of tranquility, would never have been added, or let's say included in the 400 years. And then the last four words, the redemption, the salvation, the end would have been pushed off by necessity, because you needed to have, as God promised, 400 years of wandering. Okay, verse 2. Eila toldos Yaakov Yosef. Very strange. I mean, there's obviously more words to the verse, but that's how it's read. These are the chronicles of Jacob. Joseph, at the age of 17 years, was a shepherd with his brothers by the flock, but he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph would bring evil reports about them to their father. So right away it says, these are the chronicles of Jacob, Eila toldos Yaakov, and it doesn't mention, what is it failing to mention? Don't you think it should have mentioned the 12 sons? Why does it only mention Jacob? So if that didn't bother you until now, it should bother you as of right now. Shahaya Yosef doimel Yaakov bekol korotav. You know why? Yosef was his favorite son, and Yosef was similar to Jacob in every aspect. V'doime kilu haya Yosef ikar todotav. It's as if, it's making it similar as if Yosef was his prime progeny. The Midrash Zesoiver and the Medrash, which we just quoted about Yaakov being similar in all his appearances, is reasoning like this. Sherotza Yaakov lataken mashalo kibed et aviv kol hayamim halalu. The Yaakov he needed to fix. What happened? Yaakov himself did not honor his father, okay, we discussed this, for 22 years when he was away. He didn't honor his own father. And read this again. Sherotza Yaakov letaken mashalo kibed et aviv. He wanted to fix the fact that he didn't honor his own father all those years. Al ken yashe beretz meguri aviv. That's why he considered to be a settler in the land where his father dwelt. The chashav ki b'zeh yutukan gam ha'avar. He thought this would fix what happened in the past. In other words, that was good motivation. He wanted to settle in the land where his father was a wanderer, and that's why he was bikesh le'she b'shalva. That's why he requested to dwell in a peaceful way, in a tranquil way. And right away, al ken kafsa olav rag shel Yosef. Right away, the jumped upon him, pounced upon him, sprang upon him the anger of Yosef. Why are we calling it anger of Yosef? We'll speak about it. Lekabel onesh. He's actually receiving the punishment. Gam al hayamim shelo ya'aviv mechubad mibno shu ikar zaro. that his own son would, and measure for measure, his own son would end up not honoring him. This is like, he didn't honor his father for X many years, so came upon, we're calling it the anger of Yosef. It was actually a punishment that he received for the days, for the time, for the years that his own father was not honored, meaning he didn't honor his father, and therefore it was his prime progeny who was going to suffer. According to the same numbers, Yaakov bilti mechubad mibano, that Yaakov will not be honored by his son, who's the Iker Toldo Shalom. So in other words, just like Yaakov himself was the prime progeny of Yitzhak, so too Yosef was the prime progeny of Yaakov. That's why it says, these are the generations or deeds of Yaakov, Yosef. Okay, now we're going to talk about this anger a little bit. Why is it called the anger of? Why is it called kafza, jumping? And why is it called anger? And why is it related to Yosef? Uma shamar, and just like it says, kafza Allah bragzo shel Yosef. That's the Medrash. The Medrash says that jumped upon him, or sprang upon him, the anger of Yosef. So ma'u loshen kafza. What exactly is this language of kafza? What does that mean, jump? It could have said, and it should have said, Bo liyodo inyono shel Yosef. Came upon him the concepts, the ideas relating to Yosef. Wouldn't that have made more sense? What is kafza? It's a strange language. And ma'u loshen ragzu. What's the language of anger doing here? V'lama yiches haroyes liyosef. Not only what's anger doing here, but what anger, how is it related to Yosef in any way? Why are we attributing it and putting a label of the anger to Yosef? So the Kliyakar begins to explain. Hakarov elai lomar bezeh. You know why it's called Ragzo Shel Yosef, anger of Joseph? Because we're talking about the sin of Joseph. Joseph also sinned. If Joseph hadn't sinned, those things wouldn't have happened to him either. But what we're going to come away with was Joseph's sin wasn't that bad to be punished, and even Yaakov's sin wasn't that bad to be punished. But the combination of both made for the perfect solution. Asher bo hirguz lelohim. When someone sins, they anger God. That's what it means. So if we're saying that, why are we calling it the anger of Yosef? It means the sin of Yosef, because when you sin, you anger God. Then Shehevi dabatam ra'a alechav. He brought an evil report, right? We read that in the verse 2. In the fact that he brought an evil report on his brothers, ek shekarim achehem avadim. What was the evil report? He went back, and it was true, right? Loshen hara happens to be true. He went back and told his father that the other brothers are calling some of the brothers, sons of slaves. They're slaves themselves. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, I'll just give you a rundown. Leah had 6 sons, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zevulun. Now Zilpah, she had 2 sons. She was a maidservant. Is she a wife? We'll see in a second. But she's a maidservant. And Bilhah. Okay, so Zilpah had Gad and Asher. Bilhah had Dan and Naphtali. And of course, Rachel, who was one of the mothers, had Yosef and Benjamin. Okay, so the sons of Leah were making fun of the sons of the 2 handmaidens, and Yosef was bringing back the report to the father that the brothers of Leah are not speaking so nicely about, to and about. They're making fun of the other brothers. Now, who does that also affect? It also affects the father. It's an honor to the father that the children don't fight, and especially when you're talking about things like this, about his wives, which, okay, we'll have to talk about that. We'll talk about that, because just quickly, that the verse does call them his shifchot. They are definitely concubines and maidservants. On the other hand, the verse we just read, just keep in mind, we'll read it again, but it says, They were making fun of the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. Here in this verse, they're called his wives. Other places, they're not called his wives. So the reason why he was so concerned to bring the evil report, still it's an evil report, was because he was concerned about the honor of his father. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit later. Achaya hadin notain le'evid nimchar Yosef. So Yosef brought back the evil report about the brothers speaking about the other brothers in a negative fashion as if they were slaves. So look at Psalms 105 verse 17. This says, he sent a man before Yosef was sold as a slave. Le'evid nimchar Yosef. Yosef was sold as a slave, measure for measure. He was using this idea that he was, even though it was true, but it was negative report. And so the brothers were making fun of the other brothers, but he was bringing that back to his father. So as a result, he was sold as a slave. If that's the case, what should be the question we should all be asking? If that's the case, what does it have to do with Yaakov asking for tranquility? There should have been a punishment for Yosef. Nevertheless, this punishment, it was certainly fitting to come upon Yosef, whether or not his father, Yaakov, was searching for tranquility. Yosef ben Shiva Esrei Shana Haya. Okay, now this is interesting. We all know in Judaism that once a girl turns 12 and a boy turns 13, they're actually treated as adults in the community, meaning that if they commit a crime, they're held accountable. They steal, they have to pay it back, and if they got caught, they have to pay double. And if they murder somebody, capital crime, capital punishment. Doesn't matter that he's I don't know what you call in the secular world that we live in. You're only an adult when you turn 18, correct? But no, he's considered an adult in this world once they turn 12 or 13. But there's a secret. Ready for this? Hashem loves us. He knows that what adolescence is. He created us. So when it comes to a bar mitzvah, until the age of 20, they're not accountable for the sins they do in heaven. Yeah, they're accountable for what they do here, but Hashem overlooks all their sins because they're trying to find themselves, right? They're maybe experimenting. I don't know. I'm not going to use the word rebellious, but I don't know what words to use. But they're definitely, what's the word? They're developing, and God knows that. So basically, he's only 17 years old. He wasn't in the category of being punished yet from the heavenly court. Therefore, there's a connection. God himself connected what we call the anger and the sin of Yosef also from the fact that Yaakov himself requested to live in peace. In other words, Rabbi Chesed gave a great class the other day on the exactitude of God's judgment and what kind of cheshbonot, we're talking about people that can affect other people, that connect other people, affect other people down the line, and only God knows the exact punishment or reward for anything that happens. We should really try our best to stay away from judging. Of course, someone who's totally evil we don't want to associate with, but we have no idea what other good things they did in their lives or anything. It's not for us to judge. We don't know. We don't even come close to having an imagination of what someone's punishment would be. Only Hashem, that created the world, knows you can just imagine how many atoms and molecules there are in this universe, and he knows every one of them. You know what I mean? And so, what is your action going to do that's going to have a positive effect or a negative effect on someone else down the line? Whether or not you'll get reward or punishment for it, you never know. But anyway, Hashem knew to connect these two. Al Kain miher Hashem. That's why God went and called kafza. Kafza means to jump, to move forward. That's why God he did it quickly. V'asla Yosef bar Anoshim kodem zmano. He made Joseph obligated in a punishment before his time. In other words, normally you're waiting, God would have waited till he was 20, but Hashem made it happen earlier. Loshen kaf Allah. That's what the Medrash means when it says it came upon him, it jumped upon him, it came quickly. Kiko kfitza. Every time the word kfitza, you ever see children, they're jumping on their beds or trampoline or just standing there. We call them kfitzas, like mamish, like up and down, like stop already. I think they had too much sugar. So every time kfitza is used, it teaches about davar sharui lavo al kopanim, something that's supposed to happen, meher lavo kodem zmano, but it happens quicker than its appointed time. Kach chafetz Hashem lahavi oynish. God Himself desired to bring this punishment on Yosef before its time, kedei levata yeshivato shel Yaakov, in order to negate the shalva, the tranquility that Yaakov himself desired. Vaha garma. It's only the combination of the two. Ki onish shel Yosef levad, because the punishment that was supposed to come on Yosef alone was lo yaspik. It wasn't enough. He shouldn't even been punished. Ki lo haya bar anashim, because he was not yet in the category of being punished in heaven. V'yeshiva she Yaakov levad. Also, the request of Yaakov alone to be to live in this world tranquilly. Lo yaspik lavi bavor ze onish shel Yosef shelo chata. That would not have been enough had Yosef not sinned. Okay, so Rashi brings a very important analogy to a pearl that fell amongst the sand. And of course, when you're looking for a pearl that falls into the sand, you take a sifter and you get rid of all the pebbles and then the sand, but you're only interested in the pearl. And this is Himshel Beis Esav L'chol. The analogy shows that Esav is like the sand, Ubeit Yaakov El HaMargalit, whereas the Jewish people are compared to the pearl. Al derek shemasik v'yikuraba, as mentioned in the Medrash. Over here it says Esav is sheish nafashos haylo. We know that Esav had 6 children, and now if you look in, I think it's Genesis 36:6. Right, when I mentioned earlier, all the people of his household, in Hebrew it says kol nefashos. Okay, that's plural. So he had 6, and they were considered rabim, like many. Why? Because they worshipped many gods. That's why they're called 6 souls, not sick, 6. 6 souls, because they weren't unified and they all worshipped a different god. But Yaakov is called 70 souls. Did I bring that verse? That would be number 8. Exodus 1 verse 5. These are the sons of Yaakov, were 70 souls. But look in Hebrew, Shivim Nefesh. They were 70, but it's in singular language. They were 70 what? 70 soul. Interesting. Why? Why are the Jewish people called Nefesh? Because they only serve one God, unified. Ad kan lashona. That's the end of the Medrash. Mitzad shem ovdim lelahos harbe. Because the sons of Esav serve many different gods. Al kain mitzui behem tamid mariva. That's why they're constantly fighting. I mean, ve'enan b'haskama achas. They don't have one agreement. They can't even be in agreement. Mitzad riboy hadatos, because of the many different religious streams. Ve'enan misachdim u'mischabrim. They're not unified. They're not bonding. You know why? It's like the chol, like the sand on the beach. The sand does not connect. It's not connected. They're individual grains that are just sitting there together. Aval Yisrael, but when it comes to the Jewish people, mitzad she'oivim le'el echad, because they're all serving one God. Hashalom mitaveg beineihem, and peace, or maybe Hashem's peace, is dwelling amongst them and acting as an intermediary. Harehem kamar galiot charuzim b'chut. They're like pearls that are strung. When you have pearls that are strung, I mean, today, I guess it's smart to make knots in between them, so if it got broken, they would all, they wouldn't all fly over the place. But the way you normally string pearls is they're touching each other. They're all in one string, and the pearls are all touching each other. Shidvukim zebzeh, they're actually clinging to each other. Ayidei achut shemechabram, they're all clinging to each other through the one string that connected them. As it says, this is in Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 3. Kechut hashani setotayich, but it's very hard to translate because one could say it means, where I do it, your lips are like a scarlet thread, but it's interpreted as the sincerity of your lips. Then we're going to get into this idea of loshen hara, okay? Siftei da'at v'toras hamarbim shalom be'olam. It's the lips of religion. Siftei da'at, the wise lips, and Torah increases peace in the world. So that's what it means here in Song of Songs, like a chut, like a thread that is strung together with pearls. Okay, I think that's quite beautiful analogy. And now we're going to talk about the loshen hara a little bit. Okay, so now we're on the very end of verse 2. V'yaveh Yosef es devatam ra'ah el avihem. That Yosef would bring evil reports about them to his father. So let's get a little bit of background. A lot of things in Hebrew are going to be counterintuitive. Like sunset and sunrise, the word yotzei means that the sun is actually coming out. Yotzei. And when it's settling, when it's sunset, it's haba, it's coming. So you would think that it's the other way around. Here too, we don't normally find the word haba'ah, here it's the yaveh, he would bring. When it comes to loshen hara, what word do we normally find? Kim loshen hotza'ah, to come out. Even though the rabbis explain, shaloshen hotza'ah shayak b'diba shel sheker. When the word hotza'ah is used, it's usually used when we're talking about the kind of loshen hara which is not true. So we're not going to call it loshen hara, we're going to call it motzi shem ra. Motzi shem ra. That means you brought out a total libel. None of it's true. Fake news. See, loshen hara is not necessarily fake news, it's just bad character to speak about it, and it could bring damage, and it's forbidden. So if you look in Mishlei, that would be chapter 10 verse 18, umotzi diba huksio, the one who brings out slander, he's the fool. Okay, umotzi diba huksio. And also in Numbers 13 verse 32, when the Jewish people spoke loshen hara about the land of Israel. They spread an evil report about the land. V'yotzi'u dibat haaretz. They spoke evil speech about the land. So, but our verse says v'yaveh. It's not motzi. So that we have to. Why? The loshen hava'ah shaik b'davar shu emet. That's because when that word is used, Yosef would bring about evil reports to his father, but it was true. It doesn't make it right, but it was true. Ein haloshen meduktakan. Don't worry, we're not being so critical now about the language. but rather we're going to speak about the word dabatam. Ki mideka'amar, the fact that it says that he brought evil reports about them. Dibatam, the reports were about them. What do we hear from that? Shma mina shahadiba miya chesed el ha'achim. That the report was actually about the brothers. Kilo achim hei habali diba. As if we're saying that the brothers were the ones that were speaking the loshen hara. He was reporting them speaking loshen hara. Okay? That's what it means. And who was he telling it to? El avihem, to their father. It should have said to his father, right? He's the one speaking. He spoke to his father, but it says he spoke to their father. So that's one question and a statement. But he has another. Loholan, later on it says, well, I think we read that. Verse 35, chapter 35, verse 22. So Reuven went and slept or laid with Bilhah, his father's concubine. First of all, I want to tell you something. He didn't sleep with her. You know, it says it, but we know what it means, and we'll talk about it. But he switched the beds. He switched the beds when he shouldn't. He had no reason and no involvement in his father's love affair with his mother or his father's concubine. But it says Pelegish Aviv in that verse, his father's concubine. So in that verse, chapter 35, verse 22, the maidservant is called a maidservant, is called a concubine. But here in our verse, which we just read, Hu na'ar es b'nei Bilha ve'es b'nei Tzilpa nashei aviv. He was a youth with the sons of Bilha and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. You notice, I mentioned that earlier. Who are these women? Are they considered wives or are they considered servants? Remember, the children of these maidservants were being made fun of by the children of Leah. So Elavadai, with absolute certainty, Shekola Achim b'nei hagibiros hayu mizalzali b'nei shvachos likros imotam pilagshim ushvachos. That this is the proof. The brothers of Leah, right? That the brothers who were the children of Leah, they were shaming. They were making fun of the children of the maidservants, calling their mother basically concubines and maidservants, if you're calling the children slaves. That b'neim karavadim. Yosef Levad, it was only Yosef. He was mitchaber b'nei Bilha v'Tzilpa. He befriended the children, the sons of the maidservants. In other words, I don't know what to say because these are all tzaddikim, but he reached out. He was doing outreach. And he knew that they probably felt inferior, and he was trying to make them feel better. Ki Amar Shem Nashei Avi Mamish. That's why it says in our verse that they were the wives. They were actual wives of Yaakov. Now, mitam zeh zilzel Ruvain v'Bilha. This is the reason that Ruvain ended up doing what he did by switching the beds. That was the way of shaming her. V'choshu she pelegish. He only considered her a pelegish, a concubine, and not Yaakov's wife, which was wrong. Al kain bilbel yitzua. That's why he switched the beds. He did not sleep with his father's wife because that's forbidden from the Torah. Okay, so in chapter 35, verse 22, and it came to pass when Israel dwelt in the land that Reuben went and he lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard. And the continuation of that same verse, the sons of Jacob were 12. And Rashi says here, the rabbis interpret it, it comes to teach us that all of them were equal, all of them were righteous. Reuben did not sin. He certainly did not sin in the way that most people interpret it. Okay. So, now I have to find my place. Here we are. Umikan raya brura. And here we have a clear-cut proof. Shekol b'nei hagriot hayotze diba al b'nei shvachos lekrotam avadim. That all of the children of Leah, they brought forth, they spread lies about the children of the maidservants, calling them slaves. That's why it says, the Yaveh Yosef es dibatam ra, that what? Yosef would bring evil reports about them to his father. Ota diba ra, it's that evil report, Shehosi Echav. It's the evil report that the brothers were speaking evil about the children of the maidservants, and he brought them to his father. To their father. Who's their father? The father of Bnei Bilha, Bnei and Zilpah, meaning the children of the maidservants. Right? He should. If they would have been more concerned about their own father, to call him Aviv, Lebanav Avadim. How can you consider any honor to your father when you're calling his children sons of slaves? V'chashav ki avihem yitba elbonam, and to actually consider the shame and embarrassment that you're making on your own father. So that's what he was bringing to his own father, the report about the children, about the other brothers. Okay, this is getting very interesting. In verse 18. We're not really skipping, but you need to go to verse 18 in our chapter. And it says, U'beterem yikrav aleihem, right? This is, Yosef is coming towards them, and they saw him from afar when he had not yet approached. He had not yet approached them. The yit nachlu oto lahamito, and yet they conspired against him to kill him. Okay, Yosef is coming towards them. Ki rotzo lahamito meirachok al yidei chetz. This verse is telling us they wanted to kill him from a distance with an arrow. How else, right? Back then they didn't have, I don't know what they had, but I'm assuming they didn't have guns like we have today, or missiles you can shoot. So at a distance, how is it you want to kill somebody? With an arrow. Hamemit beterem yikrov elav. They wanted to kill him before he approached. And so measure for measure, mida keneged mida, ki hu shalach behem chetz lashono, hamemis af merachok, as a countermeasure, as a, they also sinned. They conspired to kill him. As a result, he sent arrows of his tongue to kill them, even from a distance. So too, they wanted to kill him from a distance through the arrows. As it says, if you look in chapter 49 of Genesis, chapter 23, let's see if I can find it here, 49:23. They heaped bitterness, this is about Jacob, they heaped bitterness upon him and became quarrelsome. Yes, archers despised him. What does that mean? Ba'alei chitzim. They called this because their tongues were like arrows. The Targum, Onkelos, however, renders it as an expression similar to, and the half was, meaning that those who were fit to share the inheritance with him, his brothers. Onkelos interprets those who would take half. But the first part of this Rashi is interesting for us. Okay. Where are we? Here we are. Haim echav sheratzu lishlach bo chitzim. They were his his brothers, and they wanted to send into him these arrows. Even though also he spoke about them loshen hara, nevertheless, look at the next verse we just looked at. That would be chapter 49, verse 24. But his bow was strongly established, and his arms were, that's the first part, the teshev be'etan kashto. Yaakov actually held himself back. Ki hu derech kashto, because when you have an arrow, you pull back. V'choneha beitan, and you use your intent with a lot of strength. B'tzedek u'b'mishpat. He was attempting to do justice. Sherei muter lomar lashon hara al bei hamachlokas. Did you know this? The Gemara brings it down. It's actually permissible to speak lashon hara. It's not even lashon hara once it's in this category. I mean, it's not in a forbidden nature. About people who bring and make fights. If there's this guy or woman, whatever it is, and all they do all day long are yenta and talk about people in such negative fashion, you're allowed to warn people. It's a mitzvah to warn people to stay away and don't divulge any personal information to this person. Okay, so it was not necessarily that wrong. And it was really the brothers that started the machlokas, and the fact that they were degrading the children of the maidservants. All right, we're going to go a little bit further. And the Medrash brings down that they regarding that verse, Ubiterem Yikrav Alehem, before he had not yet approached them, Shesisu Bo Es Klavim. They directed, like, you sick a dog, I don't know what the word, they sicked the dogs on him. They directed the dogs to attack. V'tamashal davar, the reason for the matter is, they considered him a danger. They considered him to be one who speaks lashon hara, motzi shemra and ba lashon hara, like a master speaker of the evil tongue. As the rabbi is saying, Gemara Pesachim, Kol hamasaper lashon hara, anyone who speaks lashon hara, Roy lahashlicha leklavim, it's fitting to send them to the dogs. Look in Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. Lo tisa shemashav, you're not supposed to accept a false report. Now look also in Exodus 22:30. It says, lekelef, to the dogs, tashlichun oto. So what are we looking at here? So you're not supposed to accept a false report. Fine. And then we said in Exodus 20, verse 30, so you should throw it to the dogs. What are we talking about here? Because the Jewish people are very holy. And this treif meat. But what is it about the dogs? Look, we're going to skip to Exodus 11, verse 7. When the Jewish people left Eretz Canaan, what happened? The dogs did not bark. Listen to this. Even though we say everyone who is speaking lashon hara, shekol mesaper lashon hara, afu kekelev hamaniyach v'choletz b'lashonoi. Even he's like a dog. He's acting like a dog who's barking and growling with his mouth. Therefore, when the Jewish people left Egypt, you know what happened? Shelo behem lashon hara. One of the merits, one of the reasons we merited to leave Egypt is because we did not speak lashon hara about each other. And what happens when we left? L'chol b'nei Yisrael lo yicharatz kelev l'shono. And to all the children of Israel, not one dog barked. I don't know, it says wetted its tongue. I don't know what it means, wet its tongue. But I know the Hebrew is talking about barking. Is that what it means? The dog wets its tongue? Okay, anyway. So the dogs didn't bark, so we weren't found out. Just like we didn't speak lashon hara. Now, what was the lashon hara that was so most concerning? The truth is that when we conspired, it wasn't us conspiring, God said you were going to leave with great wealth. And 11 months before we left, it was already told us during the 9th plague, you will take out great wealth with you. You're going to go during the plague of darkness and ask your neighbors for their wealth. We already knew this 11 months in advance, and nobody told the secret. The Jews kept the secret. That's what it means that we didn't speak lashon hara. We didn't turn anyone in. We didn't give up the strategy. So anyway, this was mida keneged mida. This was measure for measure. This is what it means when they said Nelcho Dotana. So remember, he met Gabriel, he met Anish, which we say is is an angel, and he wanted to know where they were, and he says there. What verse are we looking at? Oh, it's number 19 on the source sheet in Genesis 37:17. The man said, "They have traveled away from here, for I overheard them say, 'Let's go to Dotan.'" So Yosef went after them and found them in Dotan. But look at the Hebrew, Neilcha Dotana, right? Let us go to a place. It's literally a place called Dotan. So Rashi on that verse says, they traveled away. Look at the Hebrew, Nasu Mizeh. They traveled from here, means they left the unification of brotherhood. Obviously, they had bad feelings towards Yosef. But let's go to this place called Dotan to seek, it's in Hebrew, Neilcha Datot, like let's find legal pretext for which they would want to put him to death. It's true that it's the name of a place, but it's a play on words. They were looking for something to kill him. Al Piatora Yerucha Lahashli Klavim Kol Misaper Lashnar. They were thinking that this kid, the 17-year-old kid, is guilty of loshen hara, and therefore let's sick the dogs on him, because that's what the Torah commands us when someone is, not commands us, but that's what the Torah prescribes. According to the Torah, there's a prescription of sending the dogs on anyone that speaks loshen hara. Yesh Amrim, some say Shlachak Shisu Bo Klavim, that's why they trained or sick the dogs on him. Sheyochlu Mimenu Ever Minachai. Remember, one of the things that he said that he spoke loshen hara is that they were eating a limb from a live animal, which even according to the Bnei Noach was forbidden. So this was before the Torah was given. The question is, were they held in account for the 613, or were they held only for the 7? The questions arise, what exactly were they eating? Some say, well, when a Jew shechs an animal, okay, a Jew slaughters an animal properly and he's still moving, according to Jewish law, we can cut off a piece and actually, eat it. But according to the Bnei Noach, according to the 7 Noachide laws, as long as the animal is still moving, it's forbidden. Therefore, it's more strict in that sense. Another opinion is that if you notice that a cow who's pregnant, if you slaughter that cow and then remove the fetus, remove the viable child, and it lives, that child, the calf, does not need to be slaughtered at all. And it could be they were eating that as Ever Minachai, but according to Jewish tradition, that's not a problem because it's considered slaughter. Okay. In other words, why did they sick the dogs on him? Because he told loshen hara about them eating Ever Minachai when they really were not. We'll continue this discussion B'ezrat Hashem next year. We want to wish everyone not just a Shabbat Shalom, but a most beautiful and enlightening, uplifting Hanukkah. Shabbat Shalom.
Yiboneh Archives,